Coming to you from nowhere near the entertainment capital of the world, this is the Fan Counters Celebrity Podcast.
You were like the carrot top of interviewers.
Wow, how disappointing was that question?
You did not just ask me that.
Well, that's a big question.
Never mind, I'm done. I'm not doing the show.
Wow, I can't believe it.
I'm telling you, I'm hooked.
Nick.
Yeah, he's so awesome. He's a good friend of mine.
Welcome to the Fan Counter Celebrity Podcast. My name's Nick. Thank you so much for being here. You can follow us on social media if you haven't already. On Instagram, you can check us out at Fan Counters Live. We're also on Facebook. Our big group is there. Just search Fan Counters. And of course, if you are listening to the show and you want to see the show happen and see our guest today, you can go to YouTube, search Fan Counters Podcast, and hit that subscribe button, and you'll be able to see me do the show live right in front of you. Well, it's taped live, but you know what I mean. Today on the show, I've got a very great guest. I'm a fan of Broadway. I miss it. I'm so glad that it's coming back in September. That was just announced. In fact, Broadway tours are going to start happening again. Very excited to get out there. I have a niece who is dying to see Hamilton. She has watched it on Disney Plus and knows every single word, and it's my goal later this year to take her to see Hamilton live. It'll blow her mind. I'm sure of it. And there are a lot of great shows that are coming through my town and hopefully yours as well. If you remember a few years back, The Sound of Music did a tour, and this young lady that I have on my show today was part of the kids cast of that show. Kyla Carter is joining us on the show this week. She was also in the touring cast of White Christmas. If you watch Trolls on Netflix, that streaming series, there are actually two of them. She plays CJ Suki in both of them and has a lot of original music in those shows as well. Her newest single, Half Full, Half Empty, was recently released, and she also has a podcast segment called Kyla's Corner, and that's on a prominent podcast that you can hear, which we'll tell you more about today as we get through the show. So today we're going to talk to Kyla Carter about a lot of things, including her tour, her music, and what it's like to just grow up in the spotlight. I mean, she's been on Broadway since 5 years old, and she's got a great career ahead of her. You're going to hear all about Kyla, and you can follow her on social media, and her Instagram is Kyla D. Carter. You can check her out there as we go through the episode today. Here's Kyla Carter on the Fan Counters Celebrity Podcast. Kyla Carter, welcome to the Fan Counters Celebrity Podcast. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing excellent. Thanks for joining us. Now, you were on the Sound of Music tour, and I love talking to people from Broadway because that's one of my favorite things to go see, and I can't wait for that to return. But the show came through Milwaukee around 2017, and I went with my dad, and I can only assume that you were part of that cast because you were in over 500 shows, 50 cities over 18 months. Was Milwaukee one of your stops?
It was. Oh my goodness. I loved Milwaukee. We went to Madison, Appleton, and Milwaukee. I think all in like the same amount of like 3 weeks.
Right.
And it was freezing because we were there in the winter. So we weren't really prepared for how cold it was going to be there. And yes, I did. I performed. So you saw me, which is pretty cool. I loved Milwaukee. I thought it was amazing. My mom, we saw the Bronze Fawns, which my mom loves Happy Days. So it was a huge, huge deal for her to go and see that. And then we stayed by the Riverwalk, and we went to Safe House, which is this restaurant where it's like underground. It's kind of cool. And I went with all my friends, and it was great.
Now, yeah, it's a spy-themed restaurant. We've actually talked about that on the show before with guests who are coming into town. Did you know the password to get in?
I don't remember the password, but I did get the password. I remember feeling so accomplished. It was so much fun, especially since I was so little. I would still go because I want to be a spy. Everybody wants to be a spy.
Of course.
But I went with my friends, and we were just like running around, like trying to find all these clues and get the password and figure everything out, which was, it was so much fun.
It's really funny that you remember that because you were just like 8 years old when you started touring the United States and Canada. What do you remember from your time on the road? It sounds like quite a bit. Did you understand at the time when you got into it that you're like, oh, Mom, I can't, I want to stop, and you just can't?
I always was mature. I'm still mature for my age. I'm only 14. But a lot of people were like, oh, you're so mature for your age. And I took that as a compliment because I remember so much, almost all of that tour, because it was such a prominent thing in my life. And I never wanted to stop, which was kind of nice because I had so many loving and amazing people around me. And I was singing and I was acting. I was doing what I loved to do. So it wasn't like, oh, Mom, I feel like taking a break, because I never wanted to take a break. I wanted to be on stage and more. I feel like it was probably harder for my mom than it was for me because I was having the time of my life. Little 8-year-old me was traveling across the country, and my mom left her job, left my family. I have a brother and my dad, so we had to part ways with them for a little bit before we came back. But I just loved it. I never had a moment where I was like, oh, I want to go home. Sure, I got homesick, but I really loved being on that tour.
What about doing the same show night after night, over and over? You never got sick of playing that same character night after night?
No, because live theater is so interesting. There's always something going on that's unexpected. There would be an understudy going on, or a set would break, or we'd have to stop in the middle of the show because something insane happened. And we all had our little moments. Me and the cast we all have our little moments where we'd give each other like funny looks on stage, or we'd have like secret handshakes that we'd do behind everybody's back where they couldn't see us. So it was always something new and something exciting. It wasn't like, oh, I'm doing the same thing over and over again. I loved it. I loved the consistency of it and not really having to worry after a while. Sure, in the beginning I was really worried. I was like, oh my gosh, I have to do all this. But after a while we got pretty lenient and used to the show and used to each other and could just really have fun.
It takes the pressure off when you actually are very familiar with what everybody's going to do and where they're going to go. The blocking is no longer a mystery. It takes a lot off where you can just have fun then.
Definitely, yeah.
Now, you've also toured with White Christmas, so you've really gotten the gamut of doing a couple different shows on the road. So based on your own experience and looking back on the things that you wish you would have known when you started, what would you tell a child who is just about to start their first Broadway show?
I would say something that I wish that I knew or remembered when I was younger is that don't take anything for granted that you do on tour and you with the amazing cast that you're with. Because actually the other day I was looking at videos of us singing, because we're in Sound of Music. We all were singing in perfect harmony all the time and beautiful melodies. Yeah. And I actually started crying a little bit because I was looking back at the video and I was like, most of those kids are going to college this year. And I looked back at it and I was like, wow, I didn't realize how much I would miss this in that moment. And I wish I could go back to myself and be like, really take everything in and don't take anything for granted, because once it's gone, it's gone. You're not with the same cast again. You're not going to ever experience that again. And a lot of people, an actor told me that he would kiss the stage when he was done with a show because they wouldn't know if he would be in another show again. And I thought that was so empowering of how life really does take a turn and you have to be grateful for what you have. So if somebody that would be going on tour, going on to a Broadway show that was little, I'd say to them, take in every moment, don't take anything for granted, and just have fun.
Now, you've been in the spotlight for a very long time. In fact, I thought 5 years old was your first role, and then I learned that you actually had a role at 2 years old. You were in a 2012 episode of What Would You Do? I mean, your parents had to obviously have said, "Oh, we're gonna give this a shot for Kyla." Have you seen that episode now that you're grown?
Actually, I remember that episode actually pretty well. I was really shy. I actually had massive stage fright when I was little, which was something I had to get over quickly if I wanted to keep doing acting.
Sure.
But that in particular, I was so little and that was my first job. And my parents really knew nothing about the industry because both my parents are teachers. They're both educators. So they had no clue what they were getting into with me. Nobody in my family is a singer, a dancer, nothing arts related. So it was all kind of new to them. And that job, I was so shy and I didn't want to do anything because I was like, oh, this is so weird. There are all these adults and I'm so little. But it actually ended up being a lot of fun. I was in a boutique and there was a bunch of awesome outfits that I got to try on. And it was really fun. And all the adults that I did work with were super nice.
Now, you'll probably remember these roles a little bit more because you were 5 at the time. Hattie the Witch in the Nickelodeon series Wallykazam, as well as young Nora in the HBO series The Leftovers. Tell us about how you got these early roles, which really set you up to what you're doing now.
Oh, yeah. So when I was little, I guess acting was like easier to get jobs because when you're a little kid, all they're really looking for is your look. It's not really your acting skill. So for Leftovers, it was really like a match, which was kind of cool. They matched me to the older Nora in Leftovers. So I remember being on set and there being like this house, and I thought that it was going to be on fire because that's what it said in the script, but it wasn't on fire. It was just lights. I was like, where's the fire? Where's all this cool stuff?
Yeah.
But the casting process was actually really easy for that one. I went in, read a few lines, and I think it was like, why isn't anybody doing anything? I said it once or twice, and they were like, oh, you got the job. And then for Nickelodeon, that was a little bit lengthier. I went in, I auditioned, I recorded a couple lines. I think there was a callback. I recorded those lines and they're like, oh, you got the job, which those two were actually pretty easy compared to everything else that I've done getting jobs, because for Broadway, it's 7 rounds of auditions, 4 callbacks, 3 pairs of sides. It's like all this crazy stuff. And for TV and for voiceover, it was actually really easy, which was very surprising.
Now, my kids, I have twin 9-year-old daughters, and they have been in love with Trolls ever since that first movie came out in 2016. Obsessed with everything Trolls, and now they are watching the Trolls The Beat Goes On. And I bring this up because you play CJ Suki in the streaming show, not only The Beat Goes On, but there's also a TrollsTopia now, currently streaming on Hulu and Peacock. What is it like for you to bring these animated characters to life with your voice?
Oh, it is just a blast. I love recording with DreamWorks. I think when I was little, when I recorded Nickelodeon, I really learned on the spot of how to do voiceovers, because you can't teach a 5-year-old how to, you basically just say, speak in the mic, and they'll tell you a bunch of things to do. So Trolls was really like my first job since then, where I was back in the recording studio, and it is just so much fun. And playing CJ is just awesome. She's so cool, and she's so rough around the edges, and all she wants to do is impress her aunt and the people around her and be there for everybody around her, which I think is so nice. And Trolls is such a great show, especially for little kids. Teaches a lot of nice lessons and shows a lot of like fun, exciting colors and lots of stuff that you can just learn for little kids, kind of like Wallykazam, except for spelling. It's now like life lessons.
Right.
And it's so much fun. The people in DreamWorks are so nice. I'm in New York and they're in LA, so we communicate over Zoom like we are doing right now. And they give me a bunch of directions, and I'm always on top of my feet. And usually I'm really tired afterwards because I'm having to smile through every line and be really animated the whole entire time. So I'm always like, oh, I need a good nap after playing CJ, which is so funny.
Do you go somewhere to record those lines, or are you doing it right from your home?
Before the pandemic, I did go somewhere in New York City to record the lines. There was a couple studios that they'd set me up at, and the people are always so nice there. And now, since the pandemic, I've actually recorded a couple lines from home. I have an at-home recording studio.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you to my parents for letting me take over their office and put a bunch of equipment in there. But I have an at-home recording studio for voiceovers, so I can easily record and do jobs without having to worry about going to the city or doing anything because of the coronavirus.
Now, CJ Suki's also privileged to use your voice to record some very popular songs. You've recorded the song Because You're You. It has over 45,000 streams on YouTube alone. How do you feel when you hear numbers like that?
It is just so surreal to me that many people could listen to my singing, which is just so crazy to think that could even happen. Like when you look at celebrities like Harry Styles or Taylor Swift, they have millions and millions of views. And I'm always like, wow, they sound so cool. And to think that like 45,000 people were listening to my voice is so cool, because you couldn't even fit that many people in a room or even on like the same block. So to think that my music and my singing has gotten out to that many people is just so insane. And I'm so grateful for it.
It's like a whole stadium of people.
I know, it's a whole stadium of people. It's crazy.
Well, just like acting's in your blood, so is music. In fact, you released a single called Half Full, Half Empty, which is an original song, right?
Did. Oh, I'm so excited for everybody to hear that song, because I released Average Puzzle Piece, which is really about being confident in yourself and not caring about what other people say around you. And Half Full, Half Empty is more about perspective in life. And I love how they're so contrasting in two different realms, but still the same kind of music style. Half Full, Half Empty is really about perspective and the way you can see things. You can see things positively or negatively. And I choose to see things positively. And it's kind of talking about the choices that you do have and what you can do, which is so exciting.
Now, when you're writing a song, do you kind of do it all in one sitting? Or is this a project where you might do a little bit here and then come back to it when you feel inspired?
It kind of depends. When I originally wrote Average Puzzle Piece, which is my first single that I released, it was tough. I wrote a whole song and I listened to it. I played it. I was like, nope, I hate it. Trash the whole thing. And started over from the beginning. And now it's what it is. But with Half Full, Half Empty, I wrote it in, I think, less than half an hour because I was just so motivated. I mean, motivation strikes at interesting times. I'll be in the middle of class and a great lyric will come to my brain and I'll just take out my phone or a piece of paper. I'll write down really fast. And I have thousands and thousands of voice memos on my phone of just random melodies. So it really depends on how motivated I am to get something done because I can do it, but it depends on how well it turns out. And then sometimes I can write something in a second and it's just perfect.
Well, with Average Puzzle Piece, it's about building self-confidence, self-love, and that sort of thing. And you do seem very confident. You come across, like you're sure of who you are and stuff. Do you always feel that way on the inside?
I think it has taken a lot of practice and a lot of mentoring from my mother to get me to this point where I'm just so confident, where even somebody's one little negative comment doesn't affect me anymore. My mom did a really great job. Both of my parents did a really great job raising me to know that I'm perfect just the way I am, and that I don't need approval from others. As long as I'm happy with myself, what I'm wearing, what I'm doing, that's really all that matters. So I would say I feel confident most of the time. Of course, there are those days where I'm like, I'm not feeling it today. I'm really not feeling confident in myself. And I have to remind myself, no, this is you. This is exactly what you are, and you're not anything else. So you need to be you because you're the only you that's out there. So I think that's thanks to my parents, my confidence level.
Well, that's good. I mean, I think my daughters even go through the fact that my hair is just not, participating today, and they get really upset and everything. And I'm like, just go, and it's your personality. It's who you are to other people that's more important. And I see that a lot in what you're bringing to the table.
Exactly.
So let's talk about your podcast. You've got your own segment on a show, which is pretty awesome, Kyla's Corner. This is really funny, though, because I found out that you had this podcast before your publicist contacted us to be like, hey, do you want to have Kyla on the show? You were always kind of in the back of my mind, like, I need to bring this girl on the show to talk about podcasting a little bit. Tell me about the idea for your show and how you got it off the ground.
Oh, yeah. Well, last year, actually, exactly last year, I was just in quarantine and I was so bored. I had nothing to do because I feel like in quarantine I really shaped who I was, because before I was this Broadway actor little kid and now I'm somebody completely different. And if I were to go to myself a year ago and be like, hey, this is what you're going to do, this is what you're going to become, you're going to be releasing songs, I think I'd say you are literally crazy. But I was contacted by Mark White, who runs the Mark White Show, and he wanted to interview me. I was like, oh, awesome. I would love to be interviewed by you. And he really liked my positivity, and he asked me if I wanted to do a little segment on a show for like 3 minutes every Saturday. And I was like, of course, something to do during quarantine. I'm so excited. And that's really how it got off the ground. I think my first episode was about charity to animals, Buddy Bandana, which is a really important cause to me. And really what I do is I talk about things that are really important that I think other people should hear. And like even this week, I'm talking about your friends and who you're being around and picking the right people, which I think is really important, especially for younger kids who are just trying to find their way and find the right people to hang out with. And my mom always had this saying, find the people with the big hearts, which I love so much because it's true. You meet a lot of not so nice people in your life and you really need to surround yourself with good people. So what I do on the show is I spread positivity and try to make people more confident in who they are and spread messages that I think other people would be interested in learning about and hearing for confidence and self-esteem.
Are you taping these segments ahead of time or do you do them every week?
I tape them ahead of time. I'm actually recording one today.
Okay.
Usually I write them just like a basic outline of what I want to say, and then I'll just speak into the microphone for about 3 minutes of what I'm talking about. I'll usually have bullet points that I definitely want to get to, and I have the piece of paper right next to me, so I'm like, okay, I've said this, let's finish it off.
Very good. Your motto that you advertise on the podcast is living sunny side up. Tell us what that means to you.
Living sunny side up really means to me is exactly what Half Full, Half Empty is about, is looking at the positive side of things. I mean, especially with coronavirus and the death count and all the protests and everything going on, it can really be negative. And even the news, if you turn on the news is never positive. It's always something that's negative. So living sunny side up is finding the positive, even in something negative, trying to find at least one little bit of ray of sunshine and apply that to your life and really fix your outlook. I had a health teacher. We were doing a mindset class once, and there's fixed mindset and then growth mindset. And fixed is looking at the negative all the time and not being confident and cutting yourself down. And the growth mindset is really expanding your horizons and looking at things in other ways that people wouldn't usually see them. And that's what I really feel living sunny side up is trying to find something brand new and something that could necessarily be bad, like COVID. Of course, it's horrible for the country. Yeah. But for me, I was given the gift of time, which I've never had before. I had the time to be with my family, which I hadn't been able to do since I was 5 years old. So I got the time to be with my brother again, my dad and my parents, and really just be a teenager, which was really weird, and find myself. So looking at it in this sunny side up way, I was able to get a lot from COVID, even though there was a lot of people who got sick. I turned it around and made it so that I could see the positives along with the negative.
Well, I think you're not doing it just for you. You're doing it for everybody else, which is really great. Where can we hear, like if we're looking for this podcast, what do we search?
Yes, you can go on Instagram and at Kyla's Corner Podcast. You will find all the segments that I've done all lined up for you right on one page where you can just click through almost 50 at this point, which is so exciting. I'm so happy that I've gotten to do that many. And you can see all of them and click on them and listen to them. They're about 3 minutes each. So, yeah.
Awesome. Now, you've done a lot of meet and greets in your time touring with different musicals and even just meeting people you're in New York, right? I mean, so you're around a lot of people. One of the things we love hearing about is fan stories. People have come up to you who've said, I love your performance, or maybe you've had a weird encounter with a fan, or something strange might have happened, or maybe just something really sweet and fun. Tell us about some experiences you've had with your fans.
One that I will always remember, which is kind of funny, I was in Cleveland, Ohio, and it was around Christmas time, so my family wanted to go to the Christmas Story House. And I was on tour with White Christmas at this point, and my whole family came for Thanksgiving. So we all went to the Christmas Story House, and we were looking at all the sets and everything. And we're like, wow, that's so cool. And we were in the gift shop, and a little girl comes up to me, and she says, hi. And I'm like, hi. She's like, I saw you in the show last night. And I was like, wait a second, what? She's like, you were Susan Waverly in White Christmas last night. And I'm about 45 minutes from where my theater is. So I'm like, how did you even recognize me out of all of these people? Right. And she's like, you were so good. Oh my goodness. Can I please take a picture with you? And I was like, sure, why not? That sounds great. And her whole family was taking pictures with me. And it was a really sweet moment, but so strange at the same time because I was with my family. So my brother's looking at me like, hey, I guess my sister's famous. I'm like, Camden, which is my brother, Camden. Oh my gosh. But it was so sweet, and their family was so sweet, and she was amazing. And I was like, oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. It means a lot to me.
Any weird stage door experiences?
I haven't had a lot of stage door experiences because half of the time when I would be at the stage door, I would be there for half an hour just signing autographs. Oh, wow. So my friends and I would sometimes, if we didn't feel like signing autographs, we would escape through the front of the theater and like put our hoods on and run so nobody could see us. And I feel like a lot of the actors did that as well because we wanted to get to bed or we wanted to get food. Mm-hmm. But most of the people at the stage door were always so nice, and they were always so supportive and so loving, and they were always full of gratitude of the performance that we just did. So I've never had any weird ones, which was actually kind of thankful. I'm kind of thankful for that.
Turning the question around a little bit, what about a celebrity that you got to meet or maybe you want to meet?
Yes, I met Josh Gad, who played Olaf in Frozen, the Frozen series. And my little 8-year-old heart was so happy. Frozen had just come out a couple years prior. So I was on tour in 2015. So I think it came out in maybe 2013.
Sounds right.
And I was psyched. I was so excited because Olaf was in front of me, and he was the sweetest person, I think the sweetest celebrity I've ever met in my life. He's so funny, and he brought his little daughter too, and she was the absolute sweetest, and she was giving us all hugs, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest experience of my life. And I've met so many other celebrities too. Chloe from Dance Moms came, the original Gretel from the Sound of Music movie came to our show. Gwen Stefani came to see our show. So there was a lot of like amazing people that came to see our show, which was so cool. But I feel out of all of them, Josh was definitely the nicest.
They say don't meet your heroes because you might be let down, but not in this case.
Oh, not in this case. I was so excited, and he was everything I hoped he'd be, which is nice.
When somebody like Gwen Stefani comes to the show, does she get ushered backstage to meet everybody? I mean, she doesn't have to wait outside for you.
I'm not too sure because I think she didn't meet us, the little kids, because we're so young. But she did meet some of the older adults. So I'm not quite sure how that worked because we were really little. Our age ranges were, the youngest was, I think, 7 or 6, and then to 14.
Right.
So meeting like 8 kids who are like totally different age ranges was a little crazy. But I think she was ushered backstage, and I think she actually had her own private box, but I'm not 100% sure.
Got it. Well, I know a lot of interviews talk to you about your favorite things, and I'm not going to do that except for one. I've seen that your favorite movie is The Princess Bride.
Yes, The Princess Bride. I love that movie so much.
I don't know if it's the genre or what. My wife loves it. I can't get into it. So tell me, what am I missing about this movie?
So when I originally watched the movie, I was actually on tour. I was on tour with Sound of Music, and I was backstage with one of my buddies, Jeremy, and I was bored, and he was like, we're going to watch this movie. And I was like, okay, sure. And I loved this movie the minute I started watching it, probably because I was so little and I loved how funny it was. But now that I watch it again, and every time I watch it, I text him, which is so funny. But every time I watch it, I have to think of it in a different perspective, because a lot of people can think of it, oh, it's a comedy, but it's a drama, but it's silly and it's a weird plot line, which I see your point, because it's everywhere. She tries to commit suicide. They kill this guy with shot glasses, poison, yada, yada, yada. But it's just so comical in my opinion. But if you look at the characters individually, you'll have a better experience. So every time I watch it, I try and focus on one character and try and figure out their whole like plot line. Or Andre the Giant, I love watching his character so much. It makes me laugh, and I love going in deeper with his story. And watching the characters individually instead of looking at it as like a whole picture will give you more of an experience than looking at how stupid the movie is. But I still love it. I think it's so great. I'm so happy that I was introduced to it.
The guy I like the most is the guy who goes, inconceivable. The one from Young Sheldon.
Yes. Oh, he is absolutely amazing. I feel like that whole movie has so many wonderful moments in it. Even if you just pick out a couple, it's just, you put them all together and it just becomes this crazy movie. And I think that's why I like it so much, is because it doesn't have like a strict plot line that it follows. It's kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
So you don't expect anything's coming, or you totally expect it and you're like, well, that happened. I could have guessed that, it's just everywhere. And I think that's why I like it.
And a lot of one-liners too.
And a lot of one-liners,
which is good.
Oh, they're close to my heart.
Becoming successful in the entertainment industry, it takes a whole team of people, and you've got a great team behind you, but none more important than your family. Talk a little bit about, obviously, we mentioned your mom and the fact that you had to give up your family to tour and all of that, but just talk about how your family has helped build your career even going forward.
So when I was little, as I said, both of my parents are teachers. And nobody in my family has ever been involved in the arts or anything that had to do with music. They were quite the opposite. So when I was little, when I was growing up, I was put in everything. I was put in gymnastics, soccer, ice skating, which I was actually pretty good at. But I was dancing in the soccer goals, and I was trying to do turns on the ice skating rink. And I quit gymnastics because all I wanted to do was dance. I didn't want to do any of the flips and tricks. So my parents were like, okay, I guess she wants to dance. And another thing that they put me in was musical theater classes, just kind of randomly. And I started singing Seasons of Love from Rent when I was 5, which isn't an appropriate song for me to be singing at 5 whatsoever. So I look back at that, I'm like, why did I learn that song at 5? But that's besides the point.
Okay.
They said, hey, she's actually pretty good. So they put me in singing lessons, and my singing teacher was, you need to bring her into New York City. She needs to get an agent. And my parents, clueless, had no clue what that meant. So they brought me into the city, and I did a workshop, and I got an agent. And I guess from there, they were just aiding me the whole time. I mean, my mom is like my manager, basically. She helps me with everything because I am still a minor. And my dad they're always running all over the place. But my brother is the biggest trooper that I know because he is 13 months younger than I am. So we're really, really close. And he had to deal with me missing a bunch of his games, missing a bunch of school activities. I even missed like a couple birthdays, which like totally sucked when I look back at it, and I wish I could go back and I could do those things, because in the end, I'm starting to realize, family is important. It's not just acting all the time. But he is my biggest supporter, my biggest trooper. He sticks with me through everything, and he continues to go through everything that I go through without complaining, which is just so nice. And I'm so glad that I have like a really strong connection and bond with my family, because if you don't have that, it's going to be less likely you will succeed or you will get to do whatever you want. Because I know a lot of people that want to start acting, but their parents aren't really supportive of it. So I guess they've really just supported me the whole entire time, which is so great. And I'm so thankful for it to have such a loving and supporting family.
And your brother doesn't have anything to do with the entertainment aspect of the industry, right?
He actually kind of does.
Ooh.
Funny story. I sent my agent a Christmas card with me and my brother, and she was like, "Oh, who's that boy in the picture?" And my mom was like, "Oh, that's her brother." And she was like, "I want to sign him." Just like straight off the bat. And my mom was like, you want to what? No, he doesn't do any of this stuff. She's like, no, I'm signing him. So he actually has an agent, and he's done a voiceover stuff. He's strictly a voiceover actor. He really doesn't do anything else because he doesn't like to be on camera. But it's actually a pretty good voiceover actor, which is kind of fun. So we get to be buddies in the acting business, but he doesn't do it really much as I do. No,
that's good though, because then you get somebody in your own house who's on your own team, and you get to support each other.
Yeah.
Now, TV talent shows like America's Got Talent and American Idol are obviously ways to jumpstart a career. Not that you really need that, because you're, out there forging your own path. But have you ever considered auditioning for a show like that?
With those shows, I mean, for me, especially America's Got Talent, I find isn't quite fair. Personally, I don't think you can put a singer up with a magician or vice versa, because they're not on the same playing field. I mean, they're two totally different art forms. And of course, there's so many crazy and amazing acts in that show. But I feel like the judging isn't really fair, because you're not comparing two singers.
Right.
Or really, it could be different genders or really different everything. So comparing two people up against each other who aren't doing the same art form, maybe who aren't even the same age, isn't right, in my opinion. It's really great to watch. I love watching the show, and I love the people that come out of the show who do win and who are on the show. But I've never really been into contests. I always think that sometimes they're rigged or they aren't really fair, especially with those shows. I mean, I probably would consider doing like The Voice or American Idol, but still, I'm so young, and I would be competing with people who've done older for so much longer. So I just feel like maybe if it was like a kid's version, I would do it, because then again, you are all on the same playing field, because you're same age, you're same people, same voice type, same this, same that, and everybody's going up against each other, and it makes sense to have kids instead of me going up against maybe a 30-year-old singer who's so much more advanced than me, doing all this crazy stuff that I can't do yet because I'm only 14.
Right.
So that's always been my thing, contests. I've never been one for contests, but I think it would be cool to be on a show like that.
It's a great perspective that you have, because it's very true. When you talk about the fairness of it, it's more about entertainment rather than, because so many people with way more talent are getting eliminated, and then maybe a singer will win. Well, I mean, a mentalist magician to me has a little bit more skill or something. Yeah.
Yeah, that's always why I was always skeptical of those shows. They're very interesting to watch, but I do feel the level of fairness isn't quite the best.
Well, let's talk about goals a little bit. 2021 is unbelievably almost halfway over already. So I know you've completed a lot of goals releasing music. What's left on your list to tackle for this year?
Well, I actually just started a new project with the Junga series, which is this amazing series about anti-bullying. And it's this children's book, and there's multiple books in this series. And I recently just wrote 2 songs for this series, which is so much fun because I put together a video of voice actors, which I play Heidi, which is so much fun. And actually, my brother plays Groff.
Oh, cool.
We actually job separately, and then we were like, wait, we're doing the same job together. What? And I was hired to write 2 songs for the Junga series. So that will be coming out soon. And I guess that's really what I'm doing right now. And I'm going to continue to release music. I'm going to release a new song, hopefully in June, maybe early July, which I'm really excited for. I started that today. I actually just had a producer session like an hour ago, which is so cool. I'm just so excited to show everybody what I've been doing, what I've been up to. Are you doing music videos for these original songs? Is that going to come? I hope so. I haven't put a lot of thought into it. I definitely want to do them. I'm not sure when or how, which it'll be interesting to see what I do and what I come up with and what my team comes up with. And I really want to put some videos out there because I think it'd be so fun because everybody loves a good music video. Oh, yeah. I mean, I used to watch Roar by Katy Perry hours every day, her music video. It's just so cool. And that's the thing. You stream your music online, but imagine what it would be like with those visuals. That will probably double and triple the views that you already have, which are pretty amazing. Just going to end with a couple social media questions really quick. Instagram, you have a very active account. You post a lot of things on there. And I'm always kind of curious, especially with people who, young people who are posting a lot of stuff. I know that sometimes when I post something, I'll have some anxiety or I'm like, ooh, should I have posted that? And, you end up taking it down sometimes. Do you get anxiety putting things online out there for everybody to consume? I mean, I do put a lot of thought into my posts because I feel it's important to definitely represent you on social media, especially since I'm still a minor. I still want to put myself out there, but definitely be cautious of what I am putting out there. That's personal to me, especially with my following. It can get kind of scary sometimes if there might be a license plate in the background or there might be that I don't want on social media. So I'm always super aware. My parents both monitor my social media just to make sure everything's going as planned. And I do get exposed to hate sometimes, which doesn't really bother me. If you want to hate on me, sure. Like, it doesn't really bother me anymore. And a lot of people think, oh, does it cut your confidence down? I'm like, no, not really, because they're just insecure and they want to cut somebody else down. I'll make them feel better. But when they realize that it really doesn't do anything, they'll stop. But it doesn't really give me anxiety. I'm not worried about the number of likes or the number of views it gets either. I think it's just putting something that I want to put out there for other people to see. Even if a couple people see it, I'm totally fine with that. It's really more for me, I guess, than for other people to share what I'm doing, even though it might not reach like all of my 18,000 followers, even if it reached just 100. I'm totally fine with that because people can still see what I'm doing. So I don't usually get a lot of anxiety about it. I just think it out really well. Excellent. Besides Instagram, you do have a YouTube channel. You can find it quite easily by searching your name, Kyla Carter. You post all of your music from cover songs to originals, and you've even got some surprises on there, some things from Sound of Music and some videos that you've taken. So if somebody goes to your channel to watch one video, what are you telling them to watch? That is a very tricky question because I love all of the songs that I sing. Especially the cover songs. There have been so many amazing ones that I've done where I look back and I'm like, that was such a good song. That was such a good choice. But if I had to pick one, maybe Stay With Me by Sam Smith. That one's just so pretty. Or July by Noah Cyrus. Either one. I can't choose one. So either one of those. Got two. What I like to do is that I like to take, if I am doing a cover song, I like to change their songs up a little bit, especially since Stay With Me is sang by a guy. So I like to try and change it to my voice range, and then kind of do something new with it, something exciting, because, you can be a cover artist or you can be an artist and take the song and make it your own.
Right.
And that's why I started releasing music, because I wanted to release my own songs, because I'm an artist. I don't really want to be a cover artist. So when I did do covers, or when I do covers, I try and change it up a little bit to take that artistic side into my own hands.
Very nice. Now, your Instagram is Kyla D. Carter on Instagram. And then, of course, we talked about the YouTube page. Anything else you want to promote, mention, shout out to your fans? Anything else?
You got everything. I'm so excited.
Oh, good. Well, thanks, Kyla, for taking time to talk with us today. And this week on Fan Counters, we appreciate it.
Yes, no, thank you for having me. I'm so excited that I got to do this with you guys.
My thanks to Kyla Carter for joining us on the show this week. Great conversation. I love talking to those kids from Broadway. They have a lot of experience. And, I think Broadway looks for those kids that are very upbeat and peppy and just have that great outgoing personality. You don't see many shy kids who have been on Broadway at all. So I don't think my kids will qualify for Broadway. They're kind of shy. Anyway, we have another great young artist next week. She is an actress who is starring in a movie that's on Amazon Prime. I'm not going to tell you who the guest is. You'll have to come back to find out that. But it's not a movie that you can watch in front of your kids, which I think it's very interesting when kids are in a movie that's not for kids. And we'll talk to her about how she's kind of adjusted herself to doing a movie that normally her parents probably wouldn't let her watch. And I think that's kind of interesting. We're going to dive into that topic next week on the Fan Counter Celebrity Podcast, so please come back. If you are watching us, you can subscribe on any podcast platform. And if you are listening to us, you can go to YouTube, search Fan Counters Podcast, and watch the show with me and the guest. And we would love to have you at either place. Also, tell your friends. We can only grow this show if you keep putting us out there. Share us on your social media. Encourage people to tune in and listen. And any love that you show us, I greatly appreciate it. We put in a lot of effort to do this show, and would definitely love your support in keeping this going. We have some announcements about the future of the podcast. Yes, it is going to stay going. Yes, we are also going to take a break, but not for a few more weeks. We've got a few more episodes to go before we break for the summer, and we got to get these kids out of school first, which is coming up in a couple weeks. Anyway, that's going to do it for me. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to send them to me at hello@fancounters.com. I love hearing from the fans. Just like we ask each celebrity guest about their fan encounters, I love getting fan encounters in my inbox, and would love for you to send me a message. That's going to do it. We'll see you next Friday, because every Friday we release a brand new episode. And we'll be right back here on the Fan Counters Celebrity Podcast. Have a great week. Bye-bye.